Hello everyone, this should be a shortish video. However, we will be talking about how to get a counter hit. Now at the lower level this may seem easy or just random, however everything in this game can be explained for the most part. First, if you didn't know, a counter hit is hitting someone while they are in the startup of an attack. In my previous video I mentioned learning all of your frames for all of the attacks you use. So your pokes are usually fast, your counter hits are a bit slower, lows are a bit slower, etc., etc. You know, knowing if you're plus, how minus, on block, on hit. You know, I'll be explaining lower to advanced level. To the advanced level, knowing when to press and knowing when not to press can take you very far in this game. I may touch up on the more advanced techniques in the end. However, uh, first at the basic level, knowing when to press a button is key, and that's the key to not be counter hit and have to farm yourself counter hits. And it's pretty easy to prevent it. It's simply knowing how negative you are and just not deciding to press. For example, that's why I told you to lab your pokes, all your hits, to know how negative you are. Like let's say you're negative 7 after a certain move. Why would you decide to mash after a after that? Like why would you try to jab? You could get counter hit by quite literally everything and just die for free. The only thing I would say is, you know, if you're a bit cheeky, if you notice they don't immediately take their frames and then they do a slower option, you could rage art. However, we'll move back to the topic of discussion, which is counter hits, even though that would be a counter hit rage art, quote unquote. Um, for example, moves with high pushback are usually negative, but they become safe because you're pushed too far from the opponent to frame trap. If you do decide to try to frame trap them with a chunky mid that's unsafe on whiff, you could extend your hitbox and get will punish like down for 2 launch, you know, anything. However, you can usually visually see if these things, like if you're in range to press or not. If you're not in range, don't press, or maybe lab it, and maybe you could get a punish off with some type of dash or a big hitbox, or a long range hitbox I mean. For example, jig forward, 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 and forward, forward. These moves get pushed back at certain ranges that can make your retaliation whiff. So it's good to be mindful about these certain moves and labbing how to, you know, counteract these moves, and maybe not even be hit by these moves in the first place, or to like limit it, to, you know, not force these interactions that you could possibly just be losing. Next, so knowing your frames and how you have a good feeling on your opponent should become, and then you should be comfortable with dealing with these interactions. For example, you are +3. Let's just say you wanted to get a good read on your opponent, and just you hold back. You see that they start mashing jabs. So maybe next time you either high crush or maybe you just jab to counter hit them, because you would hit them in their startup, and it would be a frame trap. And you know, frame trap counter hits are a thing, and some of them launches, some of them are just to keep them in check. For example, if you see them jabbing or doing lows, you would high crush or low crush, or the point of this video, counter hit. They may start power crushing if they are a bit reckless, and then it just becomes a game of breeds of, or you know, if your character has a string, Jin has a 1-3, it's a high and low, so the jab would hit with the armor, and then the low would take the armor off. And also just remember about the range where you could step and where you can't step, because if your opponent is a bit on the higher level and knows the matchup and tries to step, you know, that could really mess up the counter hitting, because they could sidestep your counter hit. But you know, if you know the frames of your opponent's moves and you know they can't step, you could just throw out a counter hit. If they try to duck and they think low is coming, they'll eat a mid. Or if they try to step and they try to get a cheeky step in 2 negative, the step won't go off and you get a free hit. And then once they're conditioned, if they know they can't step and the counter hit is coming, so they hold block, you can mix in a low and then start your offense with mental frames. However, I will be making a video next week about mental frames and offense, and you know, just really how to polish those things, because it's very complex if you really think about it. And it's not just, oh, do mindless stuff. I mean, you probably could, because you know it's very hard to deal with mindlessness, but you know, people play differently. And leave a comment down if you want this video or the offense video to come out faster. Plus one comment would make it come out a day faster. And I'll take a little break here to tell you to like and subscribe. It'll be appreciated. But back to the video. Not all counter hits are launching. For example, a jab on counter hit wouldn't do anything. It would give you like a string, like a longer string on counter hit, but that's besides the point. Actually, no. For example, like Dragunov 1-2-1, it's not a natural string, but on counter hit, the entire string is guaranteed. It's a heat engager. I believe the law also has a heat engager 10 frame string that could launch in heat. But anyways, all conditioning. Oh no, my bad. Not all counter hits are launches, but most of them can lead to heat engagers or frames plus damage. So you, as a heat engager, you would get more frames and health. As just a more damage, you would get frames and a bit of damage. And I guess you would heal if you have great health. But all conditioning is mental, so be aware of that. If they ever decide to challenge you, let's say you did a counter hit like 2 times, and then you're like, okay, maybe it's a condition by now. So you try to do a cheeky low, you could still get hop kicks, you know? You could still eat something like that. Depending on the frames. Like, if I think you're like, if they're like -7, I don't think they have the frames to challenge. Well, the frames are pretty intricate. Like, oh, this move crushes at X amount of frames, so it would win. But you know, I wouldn't worry too much about that. But yeah, all conditioning is mental, so beware. They could break it at any time. They could, you know, actually break a pattern, or they maybe could stay to the pattern the entire time. And, you know, you're just thinking you're going crazy. However, if they're not breaking their pattern, just don't break the pattern until they break it. Unless you're at a really high level where they could like step and actually like launch you for like accidentally, you know, being mindless with not breaking the pattern. I wouldn't be too worried. Personally, I would hold back if they are low and have the health advantage. As in, if they do decide to break their patterns, or if even if it's neutral, unless I'm losing, I wouldn't really care. But you know, if it's neutral or if I have a health advantage, I could just hold block. If they ever throw something out punishable, I'll just hit them. If they give up their frame advantage, I try to get a cheeky low. If they think they can mash after being extremely minus, I could just frame check them or frame trap them, counter hit, launch, have their health bar, wall, heat, you know the gist of Tekken 8. But yeah, I have too many straight down 4-2s, hop kicks, power crushes, rage arts, just not being careful. So if you just be careful, keep them out, don't let them get any of this last resort stuff in, and you could easily just close rounds. Because think about it, they're gonna be so reckless. I said it like 3 times already, but like really reckless. Like they're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna throw this out, maybe he'll mash and it'll work, you know? Like they have nothing to lose, but they have everything to gain. You have everything to lose, since you know you could lose the round, lose momentum. So you know, I wouldn't give up that momentum. I would just be careful, punish properly if they do something punishable. And also you could block counter hit lows, especially low crushing ones like you can down 2. People call that a robbery, you know. But is it really a robbery if it's a read that you read a high, launch them? Because if you would have did a mid, it would have counter hit them because it's a slower low, you know. It makes sense. And lastly, you could frame trap with moves. that don't necessarily counter hit launch, but just to win trades. For example, you're +4, and I believe in my last video I think I said Lee's down forward 1 is I-15. It's not. It's I-13. But I think I was thinking about the frames being different on blocking on hit. I think on block is like -1 or something. I don't really know. I don't play him. But yeah, like say +4 into down forward 1, you would be dig jab, you would be regular jab, you would be low crush, you'd be high crush, you'd float hop kicks. Like that's a situation where you didn't counter hit launch him, because I guess you didn't have the frames to counter hit launch. But you just did it just to check. You know, if you check them, it hits, you still have the frame advantage. And then they just have to respect. If they don't, you can just keep on frame trapping and jabs, etc., etc. To add, it's good to keep out with down forward 1s because it's relatively fast. Two main counter hit launching modes that I know, Kazuya's and Jin's, both I-23. I think one's I-22, one's I-23. They're high crushing, but they're very slow. I-23. So any faster move, you know, would beat them. So a down forward 1 would be good. So be more sparingly if you're down forward 1, because it's never gonna be like -7. I think Kazuya's is, but like most of them are pretty forgiving with like a pretty, you know, decent neutral-ish situation. And it's also good to prevent crushing, because you know you can get low crush, you can get high crush if you commit to a high or a low. But if you just do a simple mid, you know, well, not many options are faster than I-13 besides, you know, I-10 through I-12, which, you know, most of those moves are reserved for like punishment. Not many people are using like I-12 moves in neutral, I think, besides like knowledge checking, unless it's good. But yeah, I'll leave everyone with this: poke to get frames. Then if you think they're gonna mash, know when to frame trap. And if you think they're conditioned, you can mix in lows. You do a mix of that, and you're playing like me, basically. I like the punishment play style. It's very strong. They get very antsy. You finally throw out a counter hit. Because I like to poke with frame traps. I like to condition people with frame traps, pokes, and then if they think it's finally coming, I'm like, oh, he's not. The frame trap poke is not coming. Yeah, it's the slower mid that's coming. You couldn't react to it because you were always expecting the immediate timing of the jabs. But yeah. Play around with frames, but don't mash too much. However, besides you can power crush / rage art. You can mash that usually, like post heat engager. People are not frame trapping. Like I don't think it's safe to mash even a jab after +5 if they have rage art. So be careful about that. I rob people a lot, and I get robbed by rage arts. But yeah, don't mash too much. And thank you for watching as always. See you guys next time.